Next Sunday, Christ the King Sunday, will mark 6 years since I began serving as your minister of music. What I remember most clearly about that first service isn't the music or the cake with my name on it, but the prayer and blessing that Edmund read while the congregation laid hands on me. This was the first of many moments in which I have felt intentionally invited into this community. Polly asking me where I grew up so that she could add a pin for me to the Threads of Remembrance map. A case of pistachios with my name on them anonymously left on my desk, but I'm pretty sure it was Kyle. Our beloved Bonnie asking me about my postlude, or my daughter, or my cats. And a recent favorite, Martin interrupting my hymn playing in the middle of a liturgy to tell me that he was going to stand there next to the organ until I looked at Ivy, his turtle. That was an annoyance, but it was also an invitation. It was Martin reminding me that my role here and my place here are not intended to be confined to the bench in the corner, but to be a full participant in the life of the parish. In that moment, Martin determined that it was more important for me to share in our collective encounter with that turtle than it was for me to do my job and correctly play that hymn. In that moment, Martin reminded me that while St. Peter's is a place where worship matters, it is a place where love matters more. I don't recall when I first decided to pledge to St. Peter's, but it was early on in my tenure, and it was the first time I've ever felt moved to make a pledge to a church that I was employed by. And that was because in my life, St. Peter's has lived out its mission to be a welcoming and fearless community that provides an inclusive, caring space for reconciliation and transformation. I would second everything Edmund said earlier about being more myself here. You have indeed transformed me. As Edmund said, part of the reason I'm speaking today is because I have an unusual perspective as someone who's a member and pledger, as well as an employee. And because I am an employee of St. Peter's, your pledges are my livelihood. One of the challenges for lay employees in small churches is that most positions are part-time and lack benefits. The national church requires all parishes to provide and pay for health benefits to all employees working at least 29 hours a week. However, many churches nowadays don't need full-time employees, or they intentionally keep lay employee hours just below that minimum to avoid the cost of benefits. And in fact, the church health plan is very expensive. This past summer, the hardworking, thoughtful, and loving chair of our finance committee, Dawn Blanche, asked me about taking on some bookkeeping work for the parish. I'm currently a bookkeeper at 2 other parishes. This was a really difficult topic for me. I knew that I couldn't get this additional work done within my scheduled hours. I knew that the cost to the parish of adding even 1 more hour to my weekly schedule would be very significant because of the health insurance requirement. I also knew that I was spending about 18% of my income on insurance premiums and out-of-pocket costs. And I knew that I had recently stopped taking a medication because I could no longer afford it. Donna and I discussed the ways in which my administrative position had changed from its original conception and calculated the number of hours needed to get my work done. She presented a proposal to the vestry in August to increase my schedule by 3.5 hours a week and to enroll me in the health plan, which the vestry approved. In just 2 months, the impact this action has had on my personal finances has been tremendous. It has been the difference between always living on the edge and having some breathing room. I am no longer losing sleep over this year's reduction to my daughter's financial aid. I am back on the medication that I stopped taking, which now costs $10 a month instead of the $120 that it cost with my marketplace insurance. When my cat had seizures and an eye bleed last month, I didn't have to worry about whether I could afford to take care of her. And by the end of the year, I will have caught up on my pledge to St. Peter's. So I am here to thank the vestry, and I am here to thank Dawn, and I am here to thank all of you whose contributions enabled the vestry to make this decision, which is especially impressive and astounding during this time of recovery from the pandemic. And I am here to remind you of some important ways in which your pledges help the church fulfill its mission. Your pledges pay for me to plan, learn, and play our music, and to produce our bulletins and newsletters and vestry minutes. They pay for me to oversee contracts and manage the schedules and payments for the many groups that rent our gym. They pay for me to update our website, to help with our bookkeeping, and sometimes negotiate better prices on our utility services. They also pay for my health care, my groceries, my rent, and my daughter's college education. So I thank you.